take you through a bit of vinyl, and then Rajiv will give you a hands-on on the various things. So the first time Santosh actually asked me to do this, I was like, first of all, I'm not a very DIY guy. I'm completely inexperienced. But he said, you've actually gone through setting up a TT yourself. So I said, okay, what I'm going to do is, a lot of you will probably relate to that. So I'll take you through my journey through a TT, and I've tried to make it as DIY as possible, including a whole lot of things you can do when you get into vinyl. Right from a cleaning machine to a tone arm to various things. So obviously I can't go into details on each one of them because there are too many topics, independent topics to cover. But what I've done is I've made a handy list. So it's a good reference point if you're going to start into vinyl. So the first thing, of course, is compared to CDs, vinyl is sexy. 45, 30, 33, 78, good figures. And that's vinyl. That's there for a reason. As you can see, I'm going to dwell on the first thing you'll come across when you play vinyl, which is, okay, this is a background of why I got into vinyl. I was in I think college when CDs came out, and CDs were the big new thing. So I started collecting CDs, but they didn't match tape at that point in time. I had tapes, I had no vinyl. Then one day I went to Bombay, there was a vendor on the street and he recorded Deep Purple Burn for me. And it sounded so real. Then another 4-5 years passed, I really didn't get into vinyl. But it's still that the memory kept haunting me. I said, why is CD not matching the recording I've got on tape? Then that's when I said, okay, let me get into vinyl. So, okay, unfortunately in translating from the Mac there's a bit of this thing. So you remember the first one of the vinyl down? This is the basic issue of what you'll face. Unlike a CD where every track plays beautifully, the beginning of the groove, the outer edge of the LP, in 1 second it gives you a far greater diameter. The same 1 second when you come to the inside of the LP is crunched up. Yeah? To put it another way, if you're spinning, the LP spins, it takes 1.8 seconds to spin. You've got a circumference of 36 inches on the outside. When you come to the inside, it's about 14 odd inches. So obviously your groove of the LP is jagged. It's going to suddenly shrink like that in 1 second. And you're going to have inner groove distortion, which is what most people battle on and try to reduce. So on the outside, it'll sound beautiful when it's playing because the stylus has got a lot of real estate to cover. When it comes inside, the same 1 second of music is being crunched and you hear it's compressed a bit. And then you fight to align it. You try to find out cartridges, which stylus will fit. Do I get a fine line? Do I get this? Do I get that? So these are the issues you'll face when you start off in vinyl. So, okay, unfortunately in the translation between the Mac to Windows, the formatting is gone, so I'll just do it up nicely. This is a good video link on things like pivot to spindle distance, effective length, how the arm travels across the record, how distortion, what the figures of distortion are at the outside of the record, how it changes when you reach the first null point, the second null point. It's a brilliant introduction to somebody who wants to know all the terminology to do with a record. These are the choices you'll have when you start off. So you can either go in for your entry-level projects, your Rigas, or you can go in for the oldie turntables, something like this. You find your Technics, your direct drives, some of them are really good. Or you can go in for a second-hand high-end TT. When I started off, I walked into Sushil at Bombay and he had the project debut and he had a high-end TT. So I thought, okay, I'm going to buy the entry-level debut and then put a brilliantly good moving coil cartridge that costs a lot of money and get good sound. So that was the first awakening. And so she said, you know what, no. Your entry-level debut TT is not going to be able to take the output from your cartridge. So what you need to take care of when you're buying a TT is your bass should be strong. The main platter of the TT, what you see here, the main platter, the bass all these things, if you invest in that part and a good tone arm, you can upgrade far more flexibly. So spend a little more than you think your budget should be on getting the basics right.
Is that for rigidity?
Sorry?
Is that for rigidity, making it rigid?
Yeah. What it'll do is, since the stylus is traveling in a groove, it needs to have as resonant free surface as possible.
Platform.
So, yeah, a platform. So what your base and what the platter does, which is why you see very thick platters in the high-end TTs, they kind of kill resonance. They ensure that the turntable spins at a proper speed, and it results in good sound. So you can't upgrade those parts later on. So spend more, get a good TT, and you're set. So this is, now obviously you've got to set it up onto something. You can't just put it onto a platform. The first DIY thing you can do is your basic sandbox, which is nothing more than a rectangular wooden kind of a container filled with sand. You just build it to the dimension you want, put a top plate on it on the sand, plonk your TT onto it, and you're set. It'll hardly cost you anything. You don't need a fancy expensive rack. You can check out the build on TNT Audio. Then you've got your different types of arms. You've got your uni pivots, which as you can see is just one kind of a needle point on which your arm rotates. Then you've got your SMEs, which is a knife edge bearing. The part you see here is actually a very thin knife, and you've got V blocks. So it sits in this, and depending on when the tone arm is traveling, the knife edge bearing allows it to move like this or like this. So it's a very fine line. It's a very fine edge on which it travels. Then you have your linear trackers. Records were cut, how do I put it, linearly across the from spindle to the outer edge. A linear tracker follows the exact same path, going linearly from here to here. So what happens is, the angle at which your needle tip is touching the record matches the cutter head exactly. So you don't have distortion, unlike a pivot. And that's your popular project type or Riga type, which is gimbaled, which is basically held in place with two screws on the outside. So all these tone arms will give you a different presentation. So you can look it up. A unipivot sounds airy. It is very smooth. Your SME bearing is also a very reputed one. It's a very nice light presentation. Your linear trackers, no distortion. But although they come with their own set of problems, which is far too much to cover in a single presentation, and your gimbal, which is the most common ones. So things to look out is the type. Also, depending on the cartridge that you want to fix into later on, you got to look at things like how heavy is my tone arm. There is stuff like resonance calculators, which I forgot to put into this. I'll include that. There's a nice resonance calculator which you can take the weight of your tone arm, the weight of your cartridge, and you've got a range. Now different people have differing ranges, but broadly it is 8 to 15 hertz that the tone arm resonance needs to fit in. So there's a nice online calculator. You just plug in the weight of your tone arm, the weight of your cart, hit calculate, and it'll tell you what your resonance frequency is. So you can't, for example, you can't put a very light cart like an entry-level Autophone OM5E into a very heavy tone arm. You've got to match things like that. So these are things to take care of. Of course, you can make your own tone arm. Rajiv here is making his own unipivot tone arm. Ajit is making his own tone arm, wherein Delhi has made one. So at its very basic, the unipivot is very simple. You've got this needle here. You've got to just make a sort of a cuff on the top inside the tone arm so the needle sits onto it. Figure out your wood length. Figure out a nice balanced weight at the end, and you're set. Depending on level of skill and expertise, you can take it to any level. So that's the most simplest tone arm to make, very easy. You have two people who built it. Sound Fountain, there's a nice site, and the guy at Altman.
You can actually use a ball pen nib.
A ball pen. It's as simple as that. And then you're ready to go, and I think it'll take a day.
Teflon piece and a ball pen nib will work.
Yeah. So brilliant resources. Then once you get your tone arm or you get an old turntable, the one common thing that's going to go is your wiring. So you get these kits, Cardus wire, on eBay, which is very cheap. I personally am a zero DIY guy, but I rewired my own tone arm, and it's very easy to do. You just strip it. You different tone arms, of course, will have different instructions on how to do it, but it's an easily doable thing.
Is there any toolkit available?
For?
It's for this screws and all. It's very small.
No, you'll have to get, depending on your set, is either Allen keys or regular.
Yeah, it's pretty small.
They're available. Stanley makes some very good ones.
You get Murthy on Commercial Street. I got my Allen key for him for my SME tone arm.
And
So
he's talking about the screws. Different tone arms use different.
Yeah.
The Japanese use a different funny thread.
oh, those ones you'll have to hunt for tone arm and find. It's a big challenge.
Best not to lose your original screw.
Yeah.
No, before dismantling, we need to.
Yeah,
have an idea
absolutely,
where to source it.
absolutely.
Sourceability of the tools.
Okay, these are the various types of styluses that you'll find. The most common, the entry level one, is your conical ones and your elliptical ones. Then you have fine lines, which the diamond is cut to match the cutter head. Also the Shibata, which is a proprietary stylus of whom? Of Audio-Tech.
I think.
Okay.
They normally say.
Yeah. So each of these will sound different. The elliptical ones and the fine line ones, Shibata, will give you more detail, but the conical one will give you less detail. But a lot of people also believe that the conical one sounds musical. So it's up to you to do your research, figure out what truth you want to believe in. But these are the choices you have when it comes to. In general, if you want good tracking, the fine lines are the best ones out there. They will give you brilliant tracking. The cheapest entry level good tracker is one that Anil has, the Audio Technica ML 440A. It's a nice purple one. It's supposed to be a brilliant tracker in the inside grooves. It's a good option to start with. Then you've got the output. You can have your moving magnet output or a moving coil output. Sachin on the forum, these are two great threads. A lot of people are building it, myself included. Great phono stages to start off with. They'll come to a cost of, I think, 2K. That's about it. Do your own soldering and you're ready to go. This is a DIY recipe for cleaning your record. You can take 2 parts of isopropyl alcohol. You get good ones on Avenue Road at the beginning of the road opposite the post office, and 8 parts of distilled water. With I used to use a little prill liquid, one drop per liter, or any surfactant. Kodak Photo Flow, somebody used to use Solfurge, or so just kind of mix it up a little and you're ready to go. Use it on your vinyl. Clean it. You get a good 3M sponge. It's a pink colored one in your average food world, and one side is nice and non-scratchy. It's a little rough, so it will kind of get into the grooves very nicely. I used to use that. Or you can take a block of thermocol, just wrap a little velvet around it, and use it to agitate the liquid into the record, and then you just rinse it off. You're done.
With velvet, you need to be careful with sometimes velvet will leave very fine strands,
Fibers, yeah.
which can get stuck in your groove and then start collecting grime.
Yeah.
So,
Which is why you need this.
yeah, good quality. You need that.
So this is your basic record cleaning machine. You've got your vacuum cleaner that you can use. Build a canister and punch 2 holes in it. So one is you're developing the vacuum in the canister, and one is your external mouthpiece which actually pulls the fluid off the record. So you can just attach a little. I used to use the corner cleaner that you get with Eureka Forbes, the long thin one, and I just put velvet around the lips, and that's it. That's your record cleaning machine, which would otherwise cost upwards of something $50,000 or stuff like that. You're ready to go. Okay, this is all you'll need to have to play vinyl. It's a handy list of all the paraphernalia you'll need to get going. You'll need a bubble level to make sure your turntable is absolutely level. That's the first basic requirement that you need to have. The platter has to be level. Then you have a strobe light and discs. You've got vinyl engine, which will give you a DIY strobe light, because a lot of people say using a light that also runs on electricity changes with the variation. So some people have an external battery driven strobe light. You can build that. You have an anti-static gun if you want to, especially in the winter, a lot of crackle develops on records. So it's a nice gun that it's multi. It's available on all your needle doctor places like that. What you really would need is probably an anti-static brush or a bit of velvet to brush your record before each play to make sure the stray loose dirt gets off. You'll need a mirror to check the stylus angle to make sure it's actually perpendicular and not pointing this side or this side when viewed from the front. You need a stylus force gauge, which Santosh has got here. We'll demo it. Inner sleeves, I don't know whether you can make these, but there was a group, something happening on the forum some time back from somebody who knew an anti-static paper manufacturer here. Then you can get into a test record which will tell you if one side is distorting, the other side is distorting. It'll tell you how to set azimuth. The most popular one is the HiFi news record, which is available online. There's another one for those of you who are into using instruments, which is an analog productions LP. That's used by your turntable manufacturers and stuff like that also. It's totally measurement based. The HiFi news LP is the more user friendly one. And you've got your protractors, which are all here to set up your vinyl. So basically, this is what I went through when I entered vinyl and where I am today. And it's a good handy list of what you can do if you want to get into it. That's it. And Rajiv will take us through how you can actually level the tone arm and the other bits of...
Basically, a TT is a mechanical device. But unfortunately, I grew up when there was only TT or reel to reel around. Today, they've built up a hype and made it frightening, like a monster. Oh, this is wrong, that is wrong. It's actually a basic, very simple thing to set up. It's not complicated at all. Okay, this is the plinth. Basically, the frame where the whole thing sits is called the plinth. And you have feet. Now this is a basic standard rubber feet. You can do whatever you want. You can have isolation footers and all that. That's the next step. Basic TT. This is a thing from the 70s. Pretty well made, solid. You look at I'm sorry, but somebody is a dealer here. But the newer ones for the $40,000 are not built as good as this. Okay, and this is a suspended plinth. Basically, they have springs underneath. The Regas are not suspended. The motor, everything is fixed onto a solid plinth. Different kinds. Lin has 3-point suspended. Then you have the Garage, which are just the old ones. Solid motor, idler driven. And you have to mount it on a solid plinth and ice, whatever. And this is the platter. Can I pull it up? Yeah. This is a bit. This is the bit.